So, this one's gonna be all about perspective, first of all, but second of all, it is also gonna be about change and how to actually deal with change, because I recently went through some Reddit questions once again, and then I found a question where it was all about change and this person not being able to just handle the change, whether it is actually kind of doing something in his, I think, or her room actually, or just some massive change or some minor change. And therefore I was pretty interested in that, and I found something pretty interesting, which is also going to lead to other things, as I said, perspective and whatnot. But there's going to be more after the intro, as always. And the intro is broken, so thanks. Once again, I don't know actually why, but it is what it is. We're gonna just handle that and we're gonna just keep doing the episode. But yeah, with that being said, hello, welcome back to the next episode of the Self-Development with Tactics podcast. And I'm really, really looking forward to this episode, especially because I've changed some things. I do hope that I'm not going to have any CPU issues any longer. The quality is still the same, or it is just better right now because it's again 1080p. And yeah, so this is all for the YouTube watchers, for the podcast listeners. There's nothing to worry because the quality is going to stay the same, and it has always been the same for them. But yeah, something new. As you can see on the right side of the screen, there is a little bit of an instruction. I've added something to the whole podcast experience and also to the whole YouTube video experience. If you just have a look at the description, there's two really important links. The first one is for the notes, and the second one is for the add music for the background music. But let's actually just talk about the background music at first. The background music, I think, is pretty good for just making the whole episode a little bit more interesting and a little bit easier to consume. In general, I'm actually going to talk about some topics that might not be that of a funny thing, even though I really try hard to just present them in a pretty nice way and a pretty funny way and a pretty enjoyable way. But the background music adds a pretty huge layer to that. So please check out this link and add some of these, I think 5 or 6 tracks to the video. So just play it in the background and it's going to make the experience way better. You can also download them. It's actually like 40 minutes or something of background music, 5 different styles. So there should be something for you, something bright, something quote unquote sad and whatnot. But more importantly, there's also some notes in the description. What I mean with notes is exactly that. I'm just also having some highlighted just parts of the articles that I'm going through, and these highlighted parts are going to be down in a PDF that is linked down in the description. So therefore you can only just read the PDF and consume the PDF, and therefore you do not even actually have to listen to the whole podcast. You only have to download it. It is completely free. It is just on a Google Drive, so there's also not some virus shit or something, and it's just a PDF, and you can then just go through the notes that I'm having for the video. But yeah, it's actually, because we're already here, let's head right into it. Let's just talk about it. Let's just go through it. Let's talk about it. Let's move it, whatever. So yeah, change is an unavoidable constant in our work lives. And I would totally say, yay, it is the truth. Change is always going to happen, whether it is, as they say, in your work life or it is going to happen in your private life. There's always going to be some days that are probably going to be different, or actually also hopefully going to be different, because I don't know, always having the exact same fucking days doesn't sound that pleasant, to really be honest. But still, there's also, or always, what the fuck, gonna be change. There's always gonna be change, and handling the change is something that's incredibly important, just because there's always gonna be fucking change. So yeah, the first step or the first point they bring actually up is find the humor in the situation. And I've written down, just because I was thinking about that, perspective. Because I had to really think about perspective then, because finding the humor in any situation or in a situation is just a way to see something else in a situation. If you're having a fucking bad situation, of course you can think about it as a bad situation, and you can think about it as a pretty fucked up situation. But on the other hand, you can also think about it as a pretty just good quote unquote situation, or a pretty fine situation. It just really often depends on how you think about things, on how you just see things. And this is what I mean by perspective. This is what I mean by viewing things in a different light and viewing things in a different way, so that your life is easier and better. So try to find a funny moment during an otherwise unfunny situation can be a fantastic way to create the levity needed to see a vexing problem from a new perspective. It can help others feel better as well. Pioneering humor research Rod A. Martin, who has studied the effects of different styles of humor. And now we're actually talking about humor, which is something that I didn't really expect and I didn't really kind of just see before I went through the whole article. And by the way, the article is by the Harvard Business Review. The link to the article is going to be down in the description, and also the link to the article is going to be down in the PDF. So if you're only having the PDF, you're basically having everything that you need and everything that you might be in need of. And the thing is, well, there are different kinds of humors, and they're actually kind of scientifically, quote unquote, proven or kind of researched or whatnot, and also named. You know, you can also just be like, well, it is probably going to be something like just informal or unofficial, but it is really fucking official thing. And therefore, I've also looked up another article, but let's read this one at first. Witty banter or banter, whatever it might be, or affiliative humor can lighten the mood and improve social interaction. Respectful, you know, and they say you should be respectful. Like, I think it does make sense that you are just a respectful person, that you're not trying to, and this is kind of what the affiliative humor or banter humor, what it actually means, that you're going to be respectful, that you're not going to just make fun of somebody else nor yourself, you know, which is also something that's pretty important. And it's just going to be respectful. It's just going to be nice, I guess. A good rule of thumb is that other people's strife is no laughing matter, but your own struggles can be a source of comedic gold. Even though I'm not quite sure, like, because they say you can also make fun of yourself, I wouldn't necessarily say that it is a good thing, but of course it is way better than just making fun of somebody else. Like, this is really fucked up and you shouldn't really be doing this. And therefore I found a psychology today. I'm always messing that up. I don't know why, but, you know, I don't mind and I don't care. You know, it is what it is. The 4 styles of humor. And once again, I didn't really know there was any kind of styles of humor. I knew like that there are just different kinds of comedians and they're just talking and presenting their ideas, and there are just ways to communicate, in different ways to communicate. And yeah, I got that, you know, and it makes sense because like people communicate in different ways and all these things, but I didn't know that there's an official kind of difference between humor styles. So the first one, as you can see, is the affiliative humor. This involves telling jokes about things that everyone might find funny, like it's really important, might find funny, because we don't know. In the end, we don't fucking know if it is going to be funny for this person or not, you know, but we can actually assume, you know, because I think you can just feel that as well, you know, and you can also see that pretty quickly. If this person is not laughing or not just somehow smiling or something, they don't find it fucking funny, you know, just then do something else, I guess. The goal is to use humor to bring people together to find the humor in everyday life. The types of jokes told by comedians like Jerry Seinfeld that focus on the comedy in everyday life represents this sort of humor. The goal is to create a sense of fellowship, happiness and well-being. If you're fond of jokes about animals or everyday occurrences, then you're using affiliative humor. So once again, affiliative humor. You know, pretty nice and also pretty interesting. Like, always just learning some new shit, and this is amazing. And this is this is one of the just really pluses about the podcast for me. Like, I just really, really do hope that I'm able to do something for some people as well, or for some other people, not only for myself, but it is like a big plus for just me that I'm able to learn so many fucking things, and I'm hopefully also presenting some things that are interesting to you as well. You know, this is actually kind of my mission, you know, to show different perspectives and to show just different lights and ways to just change your mind, on how you think about the world, and or just different things in general and what's going on right now. I don't fucking know what's going on. Is it working? Yeah, it is working. And there's also another one, which is self-enhancing or enhancing humor. This is being able to laugh at yourself, such as making a joke when something bad has happened to you, trying to find the humor in everyday situations and making yourself the target of the humor in a good-natured way. It is related to healthy coping with stress. Pretty interesting. Jon Stewart from The Daily Show often uses self-enhancing humor by saying things such as, maybe I just don't understand, or I'm not the brightest guy. And I don't know, like, you're probably often gonna see that it is not the best thing you can do, since it's like, you know, you're just talking bullshit about yourself, you know, which is when it is actually in your subconscious mind, then something that you actually might be believing in, you know, even though it is just jokes and even though it is just humor and comedy and whatnot. But yeah, if you're believing in that shit, it could be not that of a fucking good thing. And yeah, not that good. But let's see, and let's go ahead in not this article, but in the Harvard article, talk about problems more than feelings, which is kind of the next step. So everything that you're seeing bold here is kind of a one step of the whole steps, or of, I think it's 7 steps or something. So keep that in mind. Talk about problems more than feelings. One of the most common myths of coping with unwanted changes is the idea that we can work through our angers, fears, and frustrations. In fact, research shows that actively and repeatedly broadcasting negative emotions hinders our natural adaptation process. And therefore, as they say, we should be talking about the problems and not about the feelings. And I think it also makes sense. And they also say, instead, call out your anxiety or your anger at the outset of a disorienting change, so that you are aware of how it might distort your thinking or disrupt your relationships. Then look for practical advice about what to do next. By doing so, you'll zero in on the problems you can solve instead of lamenting the ones you can't. And it is a really, really huge and important point. If you're just talking about your problems, you're gonna see that you can change them. Of course, you're gonna feel bad, and of course, you are feeling bad at this point in time, but focusing on the bad feelings is not necessarily going to make things better, And by focusing on the issue itself and on the thing itself, that is making you feel bad, which is quite like the root of your whole problem or your whole bad feelings, kinda. And you're able to just solve the whole problem because you're focusing on the problem, because you're focusing on the root cause, you're focusing on the root of the whole problem, which makes sense, At least in my point of view, it makes sense, and I like it, I think in general it's a pretty good article and a pretty interesting one, and also just a good one to go through, which is not necessarily going to be the case for every single article that I've seen. The next step, and I haven't highlighted that, so I'm going to highlight it for you. Don't stress out about stressing out. Our beliefs about stress matter. As Stanford psychologist Kelly McGonigal argues in The Upside of Stress, your reaction to stress has a greater impact on your health and success than the stress itself. If you believe stress kills you, it will. If you believe stress is trying to carry you over a big obstacle or through a challenging situation, you'll become more resilient and may even live longer. When you start to feel stressed, ask yourself what your stress is trying to help you accomplish. Is stress trying to help you excel at an important task like a sales presentation or a big interview? Or is stress trying to help you successfully exit a toxic situation? And this is just, again, quite a completely different way to think about stress. Is this stress actually doing something good for me? Is it? I don't know. Maybe it actually is. Maybe it is actually trying to do something pretty good for me, And you can only find out by just asking yourself and to really kind of think about these things in different ways, in such a way, in a very positive way. And I think it is also going to make you just feel more at ease on the whole stressed out or being stressed out thing, because if you think about it being maybe actually benefiting your life and benefiting whatever you are doing, then you're definitely not going to feel about it as a bad thing, because you probably find something where stress is actually, or that stress is doing something good to you, which is amazing, which is fucking amazing. Never mind. The next one is focus on your values instead of your fears. Can create a surprisingly powerful buffer against whatever troubles may be ailing us by valuing on one's values by focusing on one's values instead of your fears. And as they also say, in a series of studies spanning more than a decade, researchers led by Guthrie Cohen and David Sherman have shown how people of all ages in a range of circumstances, from new schools and new relationships to new jobs, can strengthen their mind with a simple exercise. Spending 10 minutes writing about a time when a particular value you hold has positively affected you. This technique works because reflecting on a personal value helps us rise above the immediate threat and make us realize that our personal identity can't be compromised by one challenging situation, which is a pretty huge point, which is just, again, another way to think about and see things in a different light and see things in a different way and feeling more about things in a positive way, because you're just really trying to focus on positive ways by being like, well, how can this help me? How did some things that I'm valuing help me in the past? And then it just makes sense. It just makes sense to focus on the good things rather than the bad things and trying to see things in good light, because of course our reaction and our judgment of situations, of things, and of whatever it might be, we are controlling that. And it is a really, really, really huge part of being able to just feel better about things because of our judgment, because of our reaction, because of how we respond to things. So we can always respond in a negative way, and we can also always respond in a very, very positive way. We always can, because we are in control of these things. Accept the past, but fight for the future. Even though we are never free from change, we are always free to decide how we respond to it. Pretty interesting, It's not like I've already been talking about it, but I sometimes actually feel that I'm kind of talking about things as before I actually, it happened to me so fucking often that I'm using the exact same words. I do actually believe that I'm going through things just subconsciously, but I don't know, or I'm reading things subconsciously, or I'm seeing words subconsciously, which kind of, I don't know, which makes me kind of use these words kind of obviously as well, because it's probably going to be good words, or it's probably going to be just one of the words that I just remind myself of kind of the first, just because I've already read it a millisecond ago. But yeah, and this is like a really amazing one. And I think it's not the last one, but it is one of the last ones. And it is an amazing thing. And we are probably going to stick to that a little bit as well, because it is so fucking amazing. It is so fucking insanely good. So let's see. Viktor Frankl, who is an author and who has also been in a KZ or a concentration camp in the Nazi, or as they say, Nazi death camps, which is just like, it is a really fucked up situation you can be in. It is like horrible. It really is. I'm actually pretty happy that I'm living in Austria, and we also have been a part of that shit. It's like, yeah, Germany invaded us, and kind of the problem there in history is that you can say like, okay, we Austrians, we didn't do anything because the Germans came to us. They just basically invaded us. Is this even a word? Because I don't think so. There was an invasion, and then we have just been a part of the whole fucked up thing. And that's then quite it. Like, we didn't do anything. No. Of course, like, we could have done anything or could have done something. We have actually been just cheering up Hitler when he was coming into fucking Austria. Like, it is fucked up saying like, okay, we haven't been a part of that and whatnot. And therefore, I'm also having just a lot of history around the Second World War, and especially about concentration camps and whatnot. I've had that in school, which is something that's pretty amazing, just because I now know shit about it. I now know shit about what it's been like and how fucked up it was. And it was really fucked up. Maybe I'm then actually going to be able to just show some pictures. I don't know if I'm actually able to, just because of YouTube and just because of maybe it getting striked or whatnot, but we'll see. So Viktor Frankl companioned, and therefore I'm also saying not Viktor Frankl, but Viktor Frankl, championed this idea after, championed this idea after returning home from 3 horrific years in Nazi death camps. He discovered that his mother, brother, wife, and unborn child were all dead. Everything in his life had changed. All that he loved was lost. But as fall became winter and winter gave way to spring, Frankl began to discover that even though he could never go back to the life he once had, he was still free to meet new friends, find new love, and become a father again, work with new patients, enjoy music, and read books. Frankl called his hope in the face of despair tragic optimism. And I'm also going to talk about, I found an article, a pretty short one with a citation and or with a quote there, which is pretty good at my point of view, and we're also just going to have a look at this then. Instead, we should choose to accept the fact that change happens and employ our freedom to decide what to do next. Which is again just a positive way to think about these things, which is again just a good way to think about negative things, about things that are bad and not really to laugh about or something. The adaptive leaders choose to view all changes, and this is now about a study. I'm not gonna read it, but I'm gonna just put it into the PDF then. The adaptive leaders choose to view all changes, whether wanted or unwanted, as an expected part of the human experience, rather than as tragic anomaly that victimizes unlucky people, which is again just a way to think about it differently. I'm seeing the good in things. I'm seeing the good in bad situations, or actually neutral situations, because we make bad situations bad situations. We make them bad by responding to them in a bad way, or by thinking about them in a bad way, or by assuming that it is a bad thing, even though it doesn't necessarily have to be the case. In contrast, Maddie found that the struggling leaders were consumed by thoughts of the good old days, which is probably something that you just know as well. I'm always just assumed that older or elderly people are just talking that way all the fucking time. Like literally. Okay, the old days were way better and everything was better just in the past, but it was not. Just not a lot of things have been better in the past. They spent their energy trying to figure out why their luck had suddenly turned sour. They try to bounce back to a time and place that no longer existed. And kind of the most important part there, as they say, is just accept it. Just accept the way things are at this point in time. Just accept how it is and try to work with it. And I think it is actually pretty good advice and a pretty good kind of conclusion there, I guess. Just a pretty good conclusion, at least in my point of view. In my point of view. But let's see. Let's actually have a quick look at the Viktor Frankl article, and the citation, the quote is the following way. Frankl defines tragic optimism as the decision to say yes to life despite the pain, guilt, and death that one must necessarily face. These three negative forces are counteracted by the positive forces of hope, faith, and love. The man's search for meaning quotes below are all either spoken by tragic optimism or refer to tragic optimism. For each quote, you can also see the other terms and themes related to it. All page numbers and citations info for the quotes below refer to the Beacon Press edition of Man's Search for Meaning published in 2006. I sensed my spirit piercing through the enveloping gloom. I felt it transcend that hopeless, meaningless world, and from somewhere I heard a victorious yes in answer to my question of the existence of an ultimate purpose. If there is a meaning in life at all, then there must be meaning in suffering. Suffering is an irrevocable part of life, even as fate and death. Without suffering and death, human life cannot be complete. I think it's because of contrast there, because if there's no suffering, if there is no just negative feelings, there's also no positive feelings. So maybe it's just essential, which probably essential. At the moment, there was very little I knew of myself or of the world. I had but one sentence in mind, always the same. I called to the Lord from my narrow prison, and he answered me in the freedom of space. How long I knelt there and repeated the sentence, memory can no longer recall. But I know that one day, in that hour, my new life started. Step for step, I progressed until I again became a human being. So the sentence is, or the phrase is, I called to the Lord from my narrow prison, and he answered me in the freedom of space. And there's a bunch of them, and I'm also going to link them down. I might be, I'm going to do this in the PDF as well. So you do just not even have to just check out the links down in the description, but only have to download the PDF if you want to. But yeah, I think it's actually going to be the end of the episode, and I didn't have any problems so far, I thought, but now it is struggling once again. Thanks. But it is what it is, as long as nothing just breaks or the whole episode is okay, I'm completely fine with just some time that I'm spending talking to myself, basically, and actually seeing myself, but having my loading screen there and everything seems to be broken. But unless everything is broken, everything is fine, I hope this episode actually was a good one, and I wish you the best health, happiness, and also success, and I also hope that you're going to remind yourself and that you're going to be remembered, which basically means your legacy, which basically means just being a good person, and then also going to be remembered as a good person by doing good things. And yeah, 3 other questions, because 3 other questions that I'm having for you are, why are you here, what are you trying to change, and what is bothering you the most? These 3 are hopefully going to show you your purpose and maybe even a business idea, since a lot of companies started out with solving something in the first place that really pissed them off before they solved it. And there's probably also something like that in your life, because there's also something like that in my life, and I think there's something like that in everyone's life. So yeah, thank you, and maybe subscribe to the whole experience. I would appreciate that. I would love to have that. And I'm going to see you the next time. So take care, have a good day, have a good week, have a good weekend, and I'll see you.